Hey, hello guys, welcome to Python programming for kids and teens. Hope you guys are learning and having fun. So this is the 11th video. Wow, we've come a long way. Good job guys. In the last video I taught you guys search algorithm, right? And I gave you guys quiz. Yeah, hopefully you guys were able to solve it, but if not, so this is one solution. You can have different solutions, right? So I told you to declare a list of good keys. I said 10, but I just put 3. Yeah, doesn't matter, right? Then you ask for the name of the student using input that will come from the command line, right? Then you search, say for good kid in this. So we want to go through this one after the other. So if what we find in here is equal to what the input, so say that the kid is a good kid. So I can try that. So let me give you the good kid name. Let's say Alex. So student is a good kid. Okay, that's good. So hopefully you guys are able to grasp that, right? So in uh, today I'm going to teach us what we call Python functions. Python functions. So it's basically I'll teach you guys what functions are in Python. How do you use functions to make your code much more uh, like looks good, like it's not just scattered everywhere, right? To make your code really neat, right? So that's what I want to show you guys today, and I hope that you guys will um, listen and understand this. So a function is the name given to a block or group of code, right? So you have a lines of code, right? And you give a name to that code, right? So that's what functions are. So like for example, all this code, I can just give it a name, right? So if I give it a name, so that means I group all of this code inside one name, right? And that's what's called function. Don't worry, you understand better when I try start implementing. So group of code, we give it a name. All right. So functions are used to write clean code. So just imagine that I want to write something like this. I need to write all of this 100 times, right? Because I want 100. I want to implement this 100 times, right? Ideally, you will have to type all of this 100 times. That's a lot of time, right? So but with for functions, we can kind of just write these ones and call it 100 times. Don't worry, I'll show you guys. So functions are used to write clean code. Note that. So how do we create a function, right? If functions are so good and we need to use them, how do we create it? Okay, so the first thing that you need to know is there are two types of functions: functions with no input or parameters. So with no input, but they call it more like they call it parameters, right? I just put input so that you guys will understand. And there are some functions with no input or parameters. Again, I will show you what that means. Okay, so if you want to define a function that doesn't have no parameter, all you have to do, so that this keyword def, I think the full meaning is definition, so just say def, then the name of your function, right? So just treat this name of a function as variable name. So the name of a function can be anything, right? But again, you can't put space. We can put underscore, but you can't put space, right? And you can't put hyphen, right? So if you want to define a function with no parameters, you say def space. Space will be here, but there won't be space in the function name. Then you put colon. Then you now put your code in here, down here. I'll show you guys, right? Um. So example of function with parameters, right? So you put def, the name of your function, then you put parameters or input. Again, when we start coding, you really understand it better. Just know this format, okay? So then a function returns a value, right? Again, I will tell you guys what that means. So this example of a function, see, so this is the def keyword, this is the function name, these are the parameters if you have parameters, then you have all your code that you put in here, then when you are done, then you will return a value. All right, so then how to use a function you created, right? So if you have created this function now, so how do you use it? So let's say I create a function called function name, right? Then to use it, you just call the name of that function, right? And you'll be able to use it, and you can call your function multiple times, right? So assume that I want to run this 100 times, right? So I only write it once, uh give it a name, like give it a function name, then I will call that function multiple times, right? So let me just give you an example. Don't do this, right? So let's say I have a function called search, right? Because this is what I'm doing, and I do something like this, then I can put all my code in here. Don't write this one, right? So this is a function called search, and that this like all of the code, right? So assuming I want to run this code 100 times, right? Instead of writing these lines of code 100 times, all I have to do is just call this search. Yeah, that's all. So if I run this now, this will still run all of this because I have a function and I gave it a name, and I gave this block of code a name. So let me run, then you see it's running. It worked, right? So, and I can do that multiple times, right? So just imagine I can call the function 4 times, but if I want to write this code 4 times, you see how many lines that I will use, right? So that's an example of how to use function, right? You don't have to do this one, okay? Just example, okay? So so that's an explanation of what function is. So I want to use something that we are familiar with to explain how function works. Yeah, because in the real sense, we actually use functions in our day-to-day activities, right? You just don't know that it is a function that you are using. So the example that I'm going to give you guys, so how does your parent get you ready for school, right? So they'll give you a list of instructions, right? So the first one is you get up from bed, check. You say your prayers, you brush your teeth, you take your bath, you dress up, pack your books, take your breakfast, wait for bus outside your house. It might be different from what you do, but like it's still the same format, right? So assuming, like I just assume that these are all list of codes that you have, right? So they are function that like they are instructions that you need to do. So and all of these are codes, right? So imagine that your parents come to your room every morning, right? And your parents say, "Oh yeah, get up, say your prayer, brush your teeth, take your bath, um, dress up, pack your books, take breakfast, and this." Then the next morning, your parents come again, list all of these things again and again from top to down. Like your parents will be tired, and you'll be tired too, right? So then instead of saying all of this every time your parents come to your room, right? Your parent can just create a function that's like that's like that your parents know, right? So your parents will just come to your room and say, get ready for school, right? So that's a function, right? You know that when your parents say get ready for school, it means that you have to do all of these things, right? So that's exactly how function works, right? Instead of like listing all the instructions again and again, just call it like give it a function name. So anytime that you want to use it, you just call that function name, and the person that sees that function will say, oh yeah, I have to do all these instructions, right? Just the same way, right? When your computer sees this and say this, oh, your computer will say, oh yeah, I have to do all this instruction, right? The same way when your parents come to your room and say, get ready for school, you know in your mind that, oh yeah, I have to do all of this. Get up, say my prayer, brush my teeth, take my bath, dress up, pack my books, take my breakfast, and go and wait for the bus, right? That's exactly what functions are. Okay, so we are now going to write some code. Okay, so hopefully this is gonna be easy for you guys. So let's call code. This is lesson 11. Again, you can call it anything that you want, but no space, no hyphen. All right, so let's say this code again. It's good to put comment in your code. Okay, how to use functions in Python. All right, so you remember I said that there are functions with no parameters and functions with parameters. So we'll first of all start with functions with no parameters. So that's easy. I want to do. Okay, so let's just say function with no parameter. All right, again, to define your function, don't forget the first thing that you have to do is type def, right, space, then the name of your function can be anything. I want to call this one my function, right? Then you have to put parentheses. Since this one has no parameter, this parentheses it's going to be empty, right? And you put your column, then you put your block of code. So let's say I want this function to print some information about me. So I'll say print my name is Ayo. Then print I am a software engineer. All right, so this is a function, right? So let me clear this, right? So I have this function. So if I run this code, nothing will happen, right? Because I've created a function, but I've not called the function. Then also don't forget a function, you need something to return. I will explain what that return means, but this one, since I'm not returning anything, I just wanted to print, so I'll say return none, right? If I run this code now, nothing will happen, right? Because I created the function, but I didn't use it, right? So for you to use this function, all you have to do is just copy the function and come down here and say this, right? So that means you created it, then you are calling it. So when your computer sees it, then your computer will say, oh yeah, let me go and fetch all this code for you, right? So let me you see, my name is Ayo, I'm a software engineer. So if I need to run this function maybe like 10 times, I don't have to write all this code, right? I just do this and it will run that many times. See, it will run many times. So that's why function is really good to kind of make your code neat, because just imagine that I have to write this multiple times. Okay, so I'm going to delete all of this. So that's function with no parameters. Okay, so let's now do function with parameter. Function with parameters. Again, I'll say define my function. You can call it any name, so function 2, because I can't have function of the same name. So but now this one will have parameter. So the parameter that, like, it's called parameter, or you can call it input, right? So I want the input to be name and job, and you see how I will use it. So I'll say print my name is, so instead of saying my name, typing my name, but here I will say, oh, give me my name as input, name, right? Then I will say print I am a, so what's my job? I'll say job, right? So let's comment this one out for now, right? Because I don't want it to run twice. So you see, then don't forget this is returning none. We're not returning anything, I just print it. Okay, so now if I want to use this function, if I use this function this way, what do you think will happen? Like I call this function, like this function needs parameters, but I didn't put in parameters. So let's see what will happen when I run it. So you see, it gives me error that the function requires parameter name and job. Okay, so now let me clear this. So let me give it name. Let me say my name Ayo, and I'm a software engineer. Okay, so when I run this, see, it prints this. So the benefit of this is now that I can call my function multiple times, but with different inputs, with different parameters, right? I can say my name is Richard. I'm a pilot, right? So it will print two of them. You see, it print this and it print this, right? And you can have lot of it with different names. So that's why sometimes you want to create a function that you can pass parameters into, all right? So that's for that one. Okay, I hope you guys understand that. So then remember, we have been returning none, right? So now we want a function that will not return none, but will return a number, so, or something, right? So I will show you guys how that works. So let's say function that returns, I don't know how to spell, returns a value. And this is very, very, very useful, and this is the one that you guys will probably use most of the time. Okay, so let's say I have a function. The function is called sum, right? Then the sum will take two numbers. So let's just assume that it's a and b. So like again, these parameters could be anything, like treat them as variables. Okay, so you put column, then I want to say my create a variable called result, and I will say result is equal to a plus b, right? So what I could do is to just print the result here, print the result, right? But I don't want to print it, I want to return it. I'll just say return result. Again, let me comment this out. So I want to say return result, right? So now when I call the sum again, so let's say I want to sum 3 and 4. So if I call this function, you assume that, oh yeah, it's supposed to print 7, but let's wait if it's gonna do that. Nothing happens, right? Because this person returned the result, is not printing it. So all you have to do is say what you are returning here, I need to get it, and for you to get what is in here, you just come here and say result. Yeah, the reason why I pause is this doesn't have to be this, but let me just say result 1 or something. So now what this guy is returning, or let me just call it b or d or something, yeah, so that you know that it like doesn't have to be the same name. So what this guy just sum up, he return it inside this, and for me to get what he returned, I'll call the function. I'll say, oh yeah, the return this is equal to this. So now we have the result in here. So now I can now print the result, which is d, right? Just take your time to understand this. All right, see, now I have 7 because this function will add 3 and 4, return the value, and for you to get the return value, you have to put something equal to this, then you print it, right? So these are all the examples of how to use functions, right? Remember, function is to put a group of code inside one name, so that you can call that function multiple times and you don't have to write lot of lines of code, right? So that is what this is for. And you can have function with no parameters, nothing in here, the one with parameters, and the one that will return something, right? That's what our functions are. Okay, so hopefully that is good for you guys. So the quiz that I have for you today, it's almost like this. Okay, so but I want you to write a function. You can call it any name. No, you don't have to call it sum, but the function will take three arguments, right? Or three parameters or three inputs. So instead of two, it will take three, right? And return their sum. So that means you have three, maybe a, b, c, then your result will be equal to a plus b plus c. Then return the sum. Then you can say sum is no, don't yeah, so just say result is that, then you return your result. Then after you finish your function, then I want you to call the functions three times and print the result. So you call the function three times, give it different three numbers, right, and print the result and see how that works. So I kind of explained what how the quiz work for you guys. So so that's how function works, and that's how to use it, right? You will probably use it a lot, right? So this is just a very simple example, right? And you guys should take your time to really understand it, right? Just know that this is the syntax to create a function. You have to say dev, your function name, parentheses, and if you need parameters, you put your parameters, and your parameters could be any name. It's just variable name, right? Variable names are anything, right? Then you do anything that you want to do. Then if you want to return something, you return the result. If not, you just print something and you return none, right? So if you return none and you are printing something, you just call the function directly, it will print for you. But if you are returning it, you need to get what you return first, then you print it. All right, hopefully that is good for you guys. So that's all I have about functions, right? So hopefully you guys are able to understand, and this is the quiz. If you have any question, please let me know. You can send me email or you can ask me question in the chat. And please don't forget to subscribe. Again, please like my video like my video, and invite your friends, and let them also come and learn Python. Thank you very much. See you guys in the next video. Bye.